topic that I got was masterclass and motivating your internal customers, part 2, setting up a communications toolkit. I'm sure, how many of you are HR folks here and how many non-HR? So HR folks, all. How many non-HR? 1, 2. So we are less than 10 non-HR and bulk of the people here are HR. So I've been working now for many years and I've been part of the corporate for 17 years, and before that I was part of consulting for another 4 years. So for 20 years I've been part of designing pieces, but there's one problem that we've never been able to solve. That is about getting it right for the employee. We've been designing and designing and designing, and from the HR part of it, I think we've covered the whole gamut of it, whether it's realizing that managers are the most important, benefits are important, culture is important, rewards is important, fairness, everything has been done together, and yet the employees do not always experience it the way they want. So over the last few months and using the opportunity of this subject, I thought we would talk about designing a communications toolkit and what are some of the requirements and some of the gaps in the same, because when I looked up masterclass as a subject, what came to me was that masterclass is about equals, is about people who know the subject and they come together for a discussion. So it is in that space that I've put together a set of slides for our conversation and for us to think about and contribute. In the Aditya Birla Group, we have our employee value proposition, the world of opportunity, a world of opportunity. But what does it mean? We've defined it from HR. Have you folks seen our EVP? Anybody wants to answer? We've got our ex-employees here too. Utkarsh, you want to say what our EVP is? The world of opportunities in terms of careers, in terms of learning and development, in terms of rewards, and in terms of enriching your life. Now, these are the 4 pegs we've set for ourselves in terms of a employee value proposition that all of our businesses across the Aditya Birla Group, across all of our geographies, are striving to provide to our employees. So they all know it. We said it about 10 years ago. It is, we believe very deeply in it, that this is our value proposition. But what is an opportunity and for whom? So setting it up is one thing, but how does it work? And what does it mean for me is a piece that we are working towards. We are an organization in learning, in a journey, and we always believe there is more opportunity even for functions like HR to learn more and work more and do more. So it's in that space that I've got something for you. I've got an analogy here for you. So I've put together what should we discuss. In the session since the morning, we've been discussing who's the customer, what's the segment, how do you personalize, how do you discuss. So we won't take that up in that space. But what's important is who services them. Just now Google spoke about building great managers and ensuring that managers are great. The question from as an HR professional is how do you reach every manager at the time when he or she needs it in that kind of space and spirit. You can provide resources, you can do things. So unless you sort of set up a retail army to do a on grounds availability or activation like maybe the telephone providers do or our insurance providers do, short of that, are there other ways in which to service them? How should we service them in most effectively in the most optimum manner? How do we reach out to all the employees? So yes, we have HR business partners, and those who are HR business partners would know how difficult your role actually is, and more importantly how frustrating it is. The third is once you know who the customer is, what do they want to know? We always say what we want to tell them, but do we know what they want to know? And is there a gap in understanding or is it the same? And last and most important, success gets you more success. So if we know we are on the right track, we will do a lot more and get there into that space. So, this is the 4 pieces that I have for our discussion this afternoon. So, I took an analogy from the industry to say that there are designers of anything, product designers, product providers, product available, and then there is the whole point of sale, or as they call the acid test, or where the rubber hits the road, or whichever point of view you want to take, how does it work there? That is an important setup to do. And what are the differences in the perspectives of the people who hold the warehouse or who hold the product design versus those who are holding up the customer end? And because I am part of the headquarters corporate, and in that we say, oh, but this is there and everything is there. So, if you look at it from a warehouse point of view, we are all stocked up, we are all there. But you talk to the employees, they will say, no, you are not there. So, where is this gap? My research says the gap is in the way of working, in the processing. In a warehouse, we look at things in a bulk. So, we say here is all the candidates, here is all the learning, here is all the development, here is all the rewards, and we put them in silos and we stack them very nicely, and it becomes like a hypermarket or a Costco kind of a product. Go pick up what you like in that, and it will come with generic names like product number 0011, or we have called our career initiative TOE, taking opportunities to employ, but it will be written as TOE. Now, if you write TOE, new employees, other employees will not necessarily know what is TOE, and it becomes our lexicon in our HR. We have lots of it, CTC, PMS, ACR, APCR, I mean these are ours, I am sure each of you has the same. Now, is the employee in here? Employee is waiting to be served like fine dining on what they need, in the way they need and how it is. So, the bundling of services, the bundling of names, the quantity that they need is very different from what is required in the warehouse, and it is very difficult for designers and the business partners to have this, to understand the differences. Each of them is talking, but it becomes a bit of a language challenge, if I may say so. So, it is like translation Hindi Marathi, English Hindi, we are saying the same thing, but it is not exactly the same thing. And in this, who loses out? The employee. This is where the gap for the employee happens. I have been a rewards professional in my past avatar for many years, and I used to dread the staffing manager coming to my room after I have given him or her the compensation offer to the candidate, because they would come back and say, you have written only this much and you have been a little cryptic on this, do you provide, we say one mobile phone, okay, so what does one mobile phone mean? Are you giving the handset? Are you giving the reimbursement? Is there a limit? How often can somebody change it? Do you have any copay? Now, on a small item like telephone, the recruiter would have 6 questions to ask, and imagine there are some 30 line items on that. What about bonus? What about pay? If, then what? There are so many questions, and I would get very irritated and say, what's the, so but candidate needs to know. Until the candidate is closed in his or her mind, they are judging the culture of the organization, they are judging the establishment, they are judging all this on the basis of these responses. So, obviously, if they are not sure about what they are doing, and if he answers, is not moving, he is not moving, she is not moving. Same, where is the flexibility, how does it work? So, in our relationship, the staffing used to hold the point of sale piece, and I used to hold the warehouse piece, and we used to have a conversation in that space. So, any of you identify with this kind of a setup? Do you have similar, anybody want to share your thoughts on this, or any other similar experience on communications in that space? Now, the next question comes, total rewards or rewards is a lot of items. This is our list of ABG, and I am sure it is not any different for any of the other organizations. After you identify all those millennials, senior employees, all of that, but what to communicate and to whom? In what words to communicate? Some of these are ABG specific. Now to communicate them in ABG specific or your company specific words, or to make it generic if you are hiring. So, vitamin H, wow, quality of life, code red can mean very different things in different companies. Which words? How to do it? I put together a little exercise here, but I think we have done some of it. I want us to do the third question here, which is more important. What is employees' preferred mode of receiving communication? If you just have a table conversation on it, and if you can use one of you can use the question answer session to fill that in. What is employees' preferred mode of receiving communication? At your table, 5 minutes. Only the third question, please.
You can use hashtag T1S5 for pouring in your questions. Once again, hashtag T1S5.
So looking at the millennials nowadays, they would prefer to receive something via any of the social media platforms that are available within the company, whether it's within the company or it's a public platform. They would prefer to have it like that.
Okay, social media platform?
I think essentially it depends on the kind of communication that one is receiving. And if it's something to do with me, then obviously I want it very, very personally, and I want my manager to maybe come and talk to me about it. But then I think it resonates with me where she said that probably through a social media thing or a company-wide email is as good.
Okay. Any other? Otherwise, I've been shown the 4-minute mark again. So,
I feel that specifically for stakeholder perspective, any communication from HR, emails are not so widely opened by them because usually it goes from a common email ID that the HR uses. So it's more of verbal communication or through open houses when you communicate things. And of course, because most organizations now work or teams work on WhatsApp, so a lot of communication goes through WhatsApp, small videos, any launch that the HR makes, we usually pass it on through WhatsApp. And of course, the standard communication goes.
okay. I mean, why communication is important and how to communicate is equally important. We spoke about other folks spoke in the morning, so I won't say. But the mood of the employee is very important too. There are, the context in which the employee receives this is important. Are we talking with happy times, bad times, irritated times? What are we talking about? And we as HR normally tend to forget about employee moods. We have one broad communication, either we'll do rara or we'll do very, low on emotion kind of a communication, but that's an important one here to look at. Studied something and it was a great learning for me and I want to share with you is why are there gaps in internal communication. And this research I found overall is first I believe that and leaders believe that if they know everybody else knows. Second is if I have told a set of people then again everybody knows. The third is why burden people, so we won't tell. That leads to lack of transparency. Fourth is a more process issue which is about, so we say 100 people joined us last year. Question is, so what does it mean? Where does it go? The fifth that comes in is about bureaucracy. We say people don't like the details, so let's give them only headlines, which is fine. But when they are trying to do something like a car policy or any of that, they will run into tax details, they'll run into various cash details, etc. And then they'll say, but you didn't give us the details. So getting the right mix is very important. Sixth is about taking people's different ways of understanding on board, or diversity of understanding on board. We have one way, we communicate one way. People come from different cultures, people come from different organizations also, and in a fast growing organization like ours, we have that often. That's there. Second last is, we don't want to talk about problems. So if you don't talk about problems, then how will people know? And suddenly you spring a surprise on them, there's a challenge. And the last is leaders believing we know everything, there is no need to ask an opinion, which obviously today's profile or in any generation, we've never liked it ourselves. We've lived with it, and today just the voices much more. So broadly this is what I had. I had one more video, which is an old video which I picked up from YouTube, that if rewards communication could be like this for our generic population, if we could put the whole piece together, which I'm sure companies like, I'm sure Google would have it, and many other more newer age companies would have, because Intel is in that space. I found it very cute, where without any words they communicate a lot. So this is what I have. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Preeti. We will open the floor for the question. We have a couple of questions on the Slido.
Okay.
So in your opinion, which was your most impactful communication?
A communication which has purpose, which has some meaning, which is a call for action. And whenever an organization has a vision, and along with that there are rewards and benefits associated with it. So if we achieve this, we shall get this all together. I think that's the most impactful communication to me. The second part of communication that is most impactful is when employees are down and there is a whole set of certainty of benefits that is provided to them much beyond what they had expected it to be, because they did not read the fine print and it was more than what they had expected it to be. We find that our benefits are most valued by people who move out of the organization. You know, when they see the difference, they really experience it very highly.
This again comes, it becomes my personal favorite because there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong in the right in current world. So is there a line between personal and professional modes of communication with forums like WhatsApp becoming popular for professional communication as well? And we have seen organizations actually bungle it up on Twitter and other social platforms.
I think I am a little old fashioned in this way. I think there is space for formal communication or company communication. Yes, additional amplification of it, multiplication of it can happen through WhatsApp. I think WhatsApp is best at peer level, is best at in communities, and is best as second communication. You know, you need a repeat, you have the aggregator of news, you have all of those. So just in case you missed out, it's important, but that doesn't take away the organization's space to communicate.